That is a fantastic, easy pork tenderloin, tomato basil sauce. Okay, you want to know how good this is? Fork, spoon, nice piece of pork there, look. Look at that. That is how tender this pork is. Hi everyone, welcome to Backyard Chef. I'm Rick. Pork and pasta. We're going to make a juicy pork dish with some pasta. We're going to do a tomato basil sauce. It is so quick, so easy, so tasty. And we're going to have juicy pork in our pasta. I'm using pork tenderloin. Okay, and pasta of choice. The first bag I picked up was these, so I'm using those. Okay, what we do is we cook these to the packet instructions, a minute less, so they're a little bit firm, and we'll chuck them in the sauce so we have it all together. It's a straightforward recipe. Pan of boiling water on behind me. I'm going to chuck some salt in and chuck the pasta in. There we go. There goes the salt. There goes the pasta. Little stir. Chuck it on behind. Come on. Now what we're going to do is cook this, like I say, to about a minute less than fully cooked. And we're going to drain it. We're going to keep the water. Now it is a very simple prep for this. Okay, we've got some garlic. As much garlic as you like, but for me this is a garlicky dish. Okay, we'll run a knife over there, but we're not going to go crazy as usual. I'm not bothered about fine minced garlic, as you know. That's your choice. That'll do for me. And onion. Dice it. Big or as fine as you like. Again, that's up to you. That's as far as the veggie goes, you know. You could put anything in that you want, that's entirely up to you. Pork tenderloin, we're going to keep it whole, but we don't want that silver skin on there. Okay, and we probably don't want that fat either. So we'll take that off. Okay, that we're not going to be able to eat, so we don't need it. Okay, so we're just going to take that off, nice and steady. As best you can. It doesn't really matter, you know. Don't worry about every single scrap coming off there, you know. You could spend as long as you want doing a job like this. We just don't want that. And basically all we're doing, obviously, is we're cutting up like that and we're lifting and running our knife underneath. It's just, come on. Now this is really open to choice for flavour. So we're just going to put that back on there. Now you can put garlic powder on here. You can put anything on you like. I just want a little bit of salt and pepper. Okay, nice little bit of salt and pepper on there. That's going to flavour it up. Turn it over. Let's have a little bit on that side. Now we don't want to make this too salty, obviously, so watch what you're doing. Nice bit of salt and pepper on there, look. That's lovely coated, beautiful. Now what we're going to do is old-fashioned. You know, we're going to do the old-fashioned, chuck some flour in there. We're going to roll this pork tenderloin in that flour. Okay. Now we're not coating it up too much. We're not making a batter as such. We're just going to coat that in there. And that's it. Okay. So we've got that lovely seasoning trapped on there. Now what you do is just leave that a minute or so, and what happens is it draws the moisture out from the pork surface and it rehydrates the flour a little bit, which is going to give us a crusty outside. Very easy, nothing complicated about it. Right, let's crack on and put this together. Now with a recipe like this, usually you see in recipe books and things, slice your pork loin into medallions, your pork tenderloin into medallions. We're going to do it slightly different. We're going to quick sear it all the way on the outside, then we're going to slice it. It's going to give us juicy pork, which is going to be finished in the sauce. If you slice it all up and then cook it in the pan, you have a risk of having dry little pucks, hockey pucks in your sauce. Okay, it's just a straightforward little tip. I hope it helps someone out. Now you want a little bit of oil in there, olive oil, and we're going to go in with some butter, because the residual that's left in after we fry this pork off, we're going to use to cook the onions and garlic. So give it a shake. It doesn't all fit, but it will do. So just try and get a little bit of browning on first, and then we're going to rotate it round. Try and get a little bit of colour all the way around. Now we're not really trying to cook the pork tenderloin all the way through. This back end's going to obviously be cooked more than any. Okay, don't worry about that. Let's get a bit of crusty going on here. So we've trapped all that seasoning on there with that flour. Fabulous. Okay, we've got that lovely bit of something going on there. Out onto a tray, that's going to rest. Decide whether you've got too much oil and stuff in there. I think so. So we're just going to tip some of that out. In there, your onions. Not very high cook on this one. Nice little saute on there. In there, your garlic. Little 30 seconds on there. And then stir it in. There we go. Nicely in. Couple of tablespoons of tomato paste. Nice little stir in. I'm using tin tomatoes, whole tomatoes, in with the juice, and then we're going to chop these in the can and put them in as usual. Pair of scissors, chop them in there, no mess. In there, little one of those, job done. Just bring it back up to a simmer. In there, a little bit of sugar, a little bit of oregano, dried basil. Now we will be using fresh basil at the end as well. That'll boost this flavour enormously. A little bit of salt. A little bit of black pepper. Let's have that stirred in. In there, your chicken stock. This wants to be on a simmer for about 8 minutes, 8 to 10 minutes. And that's going to give us time to slice that pork, ready to go in here. So just simmer away on there. Oh, that's looking fantastic. Okay, we're just going to push that to one side and we're going to slice our tenderloin. Leave that cooking. Okay, it's a nice steady one. This thing is definitely not cooked, so don't think it is. And we can cut it, you can cut it straight down like that, or you can cut it on an angle. So if you cut it on an angle, there you can see, look, it's cooked round there and it's going to be finished off in the sauce. If you cut it on an angle, you get big pieces of pork. Okay, It's up to you. This way you get succulent, tender pork every time. There we go, that's our pork ready to go back in there. Getting a nice sauce on there now, look. Now this is one of those where it's open to stuffing some cream in here as well. And you could have a creamy tomato basil sauce. Okay, we're going to get our pork back in there. That's going to finish off in the sauce. And those juices. There we go. Finish that off in there. Nice little stir in. Give it a little stir around. And as you can see, we've got this beautiful, soft, tender pork. Beautiful. So drain your pasta. Now what we want to be doing is chucking in a knob of butter in there. In it goes. Want some fresh basil leaves in there. That is going to boost this flavour enormously. Now you can chop it all up or you can just rip it like this. It doesn't matter, it's entirely up to you. It's such an easy, tasty sauce, this one. Stir it through. And then we're going to chuck our pasta in here. And a little bit of parmesan. So I tell you what, we'll have a little bit of parmo in now. And we'll save a bit over the end. So get that in there as a nice parmesan sauce. In there with your pasta. Stir it all through. Now, we're looking at a nice coated pasta dish. We've got some pasta water left, and if we have to add the pasta water just to give us a bit more sauce, fabulous. Now that is a sensational dish right there. Now you could serve this with crusty bread, nice garlic bread, anything like that. I'm not going to bother. You know, we're going to have a bit more parmesan in there. And then we'll save a bit for sprinkling on the end. That's going to give us that lovely flavour in our sauce. That's it. We don't have to cook anything in there. We just stir it through like that. Serve up on there. A fantastic, easy pasta dish. On there, a little bit of parmesan, and look at that. That is a fantastic, easy pork tenderloin tomato basil sauce. How easy and quick is that to make? Okay, you want to know how good this is? Fork, spoon, a nice piece of pork there, look. Look at that. That is how tender this pork is. Oh, that is off the charts. Look, and you can see it is absolutely perfectly cooked inside. That truly is an easy, beautiful pork tenderloin tomato basil sauce pasta dish. So easy. You know, you've cooked in there those dried herbs, but you finished it with that fresh basil. Boom! All the way through there. High quality meal. That is absolutely stunning by a long way. There you go. Anybody can cook that at home. Nice juicy pork. A fantastic tomato basil sauce. So easy from a can of tomatoes and some paste. A little bit of herbs, finish with that parmesan, Stir through a bit of butter for richness. Got that fresh basil in there, boom, gives it that exceptional flavour. High quality meal on the table, very easy. Anybody can cook this. If you like what we're doing, share with your friends, tell them how to put a fantastic meal on the table. If you do like what we're doing, big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell. Oh, I'll catch you in the next video. That is amazing.